I met a gypsy.
Like when I met my husband and I heard his story, I was like, all right, am I going to just be another chick? Because that's not what I want to be here. And if I am, just let me know because
Tell me
I'm
now.
out. Yeah.
No,
like,
dude.
and obviously you can tell too by actions and how people treat you.
Yeah.
But I remember having that conversation with him and being like, all right, listen, you've been through, he's smoking like hot and he's fit and then he's
Navy
a SEAL
SEAL,
and then he's a wartime SEAL and then he's like a decorated Navy SEAL. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And then he fights too. Like he literally, he's the nicest guy in the room. You'd never think it. And he's definitely the most dangerous one. 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, God, hey, listen, you don't need to, like, I'm 10 years younger than you. We don't need to. And he was like, nah, you ain't going nowhere. I was like,
that's fucking cool. And you guys are a very cool couple too, in terms of, I feel like you're maybe like nailed the public relation in it. I don't know whether it's like a public relation, but you do
publicly.
You do publicize your relationship and the things that you're going through. And like even Steve, my manager yesterday, was like, oh, it's just so cool. Like her and her husband, so it's like people do resonate with you guys and like what you have going on too.
Yeah, Ryan gets like, he's more popular. It's great. We were just talking about this actually the other day. So like I said, I dated some guys who were not that great before Ryan.
Which is good though. Like you kind of need to.
Yeah.
You
like
gotta
don't
know
get me
what you
wrong.
want.
There were some nice guys that I dated, but not like boyfriend wise. Like,
yeah.
There was one guy who was nice, but
he was a bitch.
But he didn't get me a Christmas present.
Oh.
And I was like 17.
Red flag. That was important at the time.
Well, the funny
Still
thing is I didn't know I liked that or needed that. And then he didn't get it for me. And I had spent like $130. And when you're working full time at 74 Motorsports and you're 17 years old and you spend $140 on his Christmas, I mean, that's a lot of money at that point.
Yeah, it's a big investment.
Yeah. And so he didn't give me anything. And he said that he didn't have any money. And I said, I don't care. Should have figured it out. Like, that's where I learned. I was like, oh, like my first boyfriend, I'm like,
Yeah.
I definitely on Christmas, like I don't need a present any other time of year. And I remember just saying to him, like, you didn't even get me a card. Like you didn't even write me a card. And he, like, the look of defeat, like he went,
he like
white.
realized, it like went inside. He was like, fuck.
Yeah. So I was like, but so I put all these, kind of like posted here and there, as social media became a thing, right? Social media really became a thing when I was like 21, right?
Yeah.
So here I am, I'm starting to post. I'm dating this guy and he was like all tatted up, right? And I post on there and one guy, I had to like monitor the comments hardcore because I was getting so many moto guys, like majority of them are not tatted up. They are just like normal dudes and their dads worked hard and were probably some blue collar worker that took them to the track. You know what I'm saying? Like those are their little boys.
They're not bikies. Yeah.
They're like middle America, Texas, back east. They're not California with all the tats.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll never forget. There was a handful of guys who wrote on there, God, why do chicks like these like fucking losers that look like they just got out of prison?
I think I remember that guy.
And I was like, and then, like he would freak out and see him. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm stressed out. And then I deleted my Instagram at that time. I was 21. I had 50,000 Instagram followers. That was a lot back then.
Yeah.
And I deleted it because he made me. And then he breaks up with you 20 times. Then you meet a guy like Ryan. And you're like, is this too good to be true? Because he's just like so nice. And I was going to go to nursing school because my ex told me nobody would ever want me, being like this model that travels on weekends. And so I was like waiting to go into nursing school, right? And then I meet Ryan and I bring him to my parents' house where I was living at the time. I just moved back home from Los Angeles. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I do. This is like the week after Vegas finals. He comes and takes me on a date that next weekend. And I show him all my stuff, like all my print work, like all my magazine covers, all my shoots, all the brands I've represented, all my posters, like all my memorabilia.
Yeah.
And he's like, why are you going into nursing school? I'm so confused. And I'm like, because awesome. Like nobody's gonna, like if I want to get serious, maybe one day about like maybe having a family or like whatever, like I'm going to need to not be in this, you know, I'm going to need to have a serious career. And he was like, you need to do this as long as you can. You can always be a nurse.
Yeah.
Like that school's always going to be there.
Yeah.
You can go there anytime you want. This is only going to be for a little part of your life. And I just remember thinking, like,
that's the guy.
clothes off.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Downtown right now. That's the sexiest thing anybody's ever said to me.
That's so good. But that's like a dude that's like a lot more mature and way less insecure.
Yeah, and feels good about himself.
Yeah.
Like knows who he is.
Yeah.
And is like.
And his self-worth isn't tied into what you do.
Yeah. And he's so proud of me too. Like I could get emotional talking about him, but he's like, there's never been anybody that's like made me feel like put me on a pedestal and been like, look at my girl and look at all that she's accomplished. And like he doesn't know shit about Supercross, you know? He thinks it's cool. He'll meet everybody. He'll say hi to everybody. He'll be right in the mix with me by my side. But he's just like, look at all that she's accomplished. There's no other chick like her. And no one else will ever be given the opportunity to also become like her. Brands just don't do that anymore. You know, Svelte doesn't even have Miss Supercross anymore.
Yeah.
And then Monster, love all the girls. They're incredibly beautiful, but there's hundreds of them. Yeah. There's so many events happening every single weekend in so many different disciplines and sports. How can you allow one to rise?
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.